She-Hulk. What is it? Episode 8. So we are at almost near the end now. So we got Daredevil. And like I said, it was one episode. I had the thought that maybe he would show up as the lawyer in one episode and then Daredevil the next, or whatever. Maybe it would be kind of carry over into the finale. And I kind of thought that because she's in her super suit, and I kind of thought that might not happen until the very last episode. But then at the same time, I thought it would be a little weird if you introduce Matt in the very last episode. I don't think we're getting Matt in the last episode now. So with She-Hulk, full spoilers. I mean, it was last week. You can go out and see it if you didn't. If spoilers are so hurtful to you. Daredevil shows up in this episode, and I didn't hate it. I actually quite like the interaction between Daredevil and She-Hulk. And no matter what criticisms I have about this show, there's a lot of stuff that works. You know, so I'm not one of those just She-Hulk bashing critics who just hates everything about this show and like, as a woman doing things, I hate that. No, there's a lot of good things. There's a lot of things that I have felt like this show could have done better, and there are certain things that in this episode that comes into. But most of this episode I really enjoyed. It felt like a full episode, even if I still say that the lawyer writing angle is not done really well, not compared to other legal shows. I'm not a legal expert or anything. It's just like, you compare this to other legal dramas or comedies, this is not, the writing does not hold up, and it's a little bit just silly for the sake of being silly. That's all I'm gonna say about that. I've talked about that before, so yeah, it is what it is. We get sort of a legal showdown between Jennifer and Matt Murdock, which was cool, with her current client. What's his name? Frogman, Ribbitman, something. I forget. So you get Daredevil in this episode, and I felt like he was portrayed really well. You know, it's still Daredevil. It's obviously not this grim and brooding Matt Murdock in the middle of season 3 of Daredevil, but I think obviously some time has passed, and if you watch the end of that show, it ends a little bit more hopeful. So there's no reason Max should be dark and brooding at this particular moment. And especially, why would he necessarily need to be dark and brooding in She-Hulk show? I think once we get to Daredevil's TV show, I think he'll probably be a little bit more dark and brooding than when you see him in this show, but we present ourselves differently to different people. I think Matt is going to, kind of present himself to Jennifer Walters differently than you'll see him in Daredevil. And I don't think there's a problem with that. I do think when I watch this episode, this is the kind of episode that could have felt, it doesn't feel like the penultimate episode to me. I'll just say that. It feels like this could have been happening earlier in the show. Honestly, this feels like an episode 2 or 3 of what this show should have been. And a lot of these other episodes just have been in the way of the show that I wanted to happening. But I feel like I've already said most of this with She-Hulk. So going into the finale, there isn't, I feel like I'm not sure what is going to happen in the finale. We certainly haven't really raised like set up a big conflict between her and a villain. Now here's the thing, I don't think that's necessarily bad. every superhero show needs to end with the same tired hero fights the villain in the final episode. That's part of the problem we've had with a lot of these things, is that like they keep falling to the same pattern. So the idea that they're doing something different with this, that's okay. I'm just not sure where it's going or what is going to happen. But it kind of also makes sense for a Hulk kind of story to be more about Hulk's relationship with people and how they perceive him or her than it is about punching a single person. So at least that's the way it seemed to be setting up the going into the season finale at the end. Was, you know, Jen has kind of really lost her temper in public, and especially that's a much bigger thing than Hulk, because Hulk's always been this big rage monster, but Hulk has kind of been able to present herself to the public and be like this person, big green woman who's in control. Now I feel like that would have been more powerful if we saw a little bit more of her in public doing things. I'm not sure exactly what you need to show to get to that point, but I get the idea of what they're going for, and I think it still works. So you kind of have She-Hulk, you know, like everybody's freaked out by her, you know, her, you could say, justifiable reaction to what do you call it, revenge porn, basically. And so it's kind of setting up the end, like, you know, she's kind of regaining it, and that regaining her composure, and she's just realized she totally effed up. So I'm not sure are they gonna really follow up on that in the finale, or are we gonna get like one scene and then it's moving on to the next thing? Is anything gonna get resolved in this show? I don't know. I feel like there's a chance nothing gets resolved. I feel like one thing I have to say about this that I didn't say last week was that the show promised us Hulk, or at least Bruce Banner, in the initial advertising for this. Like when they were before the first, you know, ad or trailer for this show, they were selling us on images of Jennifer Walters with Bruce Banner, you know, Mark Ruffalo. And I have to say, he's not been in the show at all. He was in one episode, you know, and in a scene in the second episode, and he's been gone. So I feel like that was a little weird to sell this show to people with this image of Jennifer Walters and Bruce Banner. It kind of made it seem like he would be a bigger part of the show. Now, in fairness, I think having him not be a big part of the show was fine. I just feel like they should have sold the show that way. And yes, I get it. In the trailers, they didn't. I mean, obviously, he was kind of in the trailer a lot, but pretty much all those scenes were from the first episode. And then also, we know that the first episode wasn't necessarily planned or written to be the first episode. It would have been the 8th. So if it had been that way, we would have only seen Bruce Banner a tiny bit in episode 1, and then right now we would have gotten the Hulk episode, which I don't think that would have been any better. You're still like, I just remember that first image they showed of She-Hulk, of Jennifer Walters and Bruce Banner, and they kept saying this, you know, it's going to be a weird, different show. And Mark Ruffalo is not part of this show. It was one episode. It just seems weird to me that they sold it that way when he was not. I don't know if they had different plans that changed when they finished writing the entire show or what, but like that's just weird to me. Also, Daredevil, like I said, it feels like the second or third episode, and like I said last week, they should not have put him in the trailer. I get it, they're trying to sell it and telling you that Daredevil is coming. is of course a major tease and gets the fans all excited, but it's one episode and it doesn't even tie, it's not a big part of the plot, so it would have been better to be a big surprise. I mean, obviously, even if we hadn't seen him in the trailer, we saw him, his mask in the box. You know, that's just one of the things of like thinking what could have been, like if they hadn't shown Daredevil in the trailer, we didn't know it was coming, and we saw the mask in the box. You know, we still wouldn't have known that he was going to be in an episode. I mean, we probably would have because of leaks or whatever, you know. So, I mean, but a lot of like people who aren't paying attention to everything wouldn't have known. I mean, I feel like even a lot of normies knew that he was going to be in the show from watching the trailer or hearing about the trailer at the very least. So if we hadn't gotten that, there'd still be a lot of debate after that episode where we see the box about whether he's going to actually show up, or is this just a, you know, just a small Easter egg, you know, just a small Easter egg for the fans, and maybe that's it. So it still could have been surprising if he showed up. So come on, Marvel, what you thinking? Going into the finale, which is this week. Wow, already done. I have to say it's not my favorite Marvel TV show, which is like I feel like a new thing I say every time a new Marvel show comes out, is it's not my favorite. I feel like I'm not as disappointed as I am in Ms. Marvel. Ms. Marvel is definitely on the bottom with Loki for me. This might be slightly higher because I feel like the highs of this show are higher than those shows. Like I felt like the promise in Ms. Marvel and Loki had a lot more promise in certain ways that totally disappointed me, but this show has delivered on things and had like portrayals or like jokes that just at least worked for me. Even if those full episodes didn't, it still has had a lot of moments that have worked for me, more so than Ms. Marvel or Loki, which also had like small moments. But I mean, both Loki and Ms. Marvel had episodes that I really felt were like just badly written, especially Ms. Marvel. That's just some episodes that were just, in my opinion, especially the last episode, was just bad. Like, just badly written. Nothing against the creators, but like, I did not like that last episode. So we'll have to see how they do with the landing. Definitely not going to be one of my favorites, but hopefully we get something interesting. And honestly, I'm not expecting a big superhero, supervillain fight. So I don't know what to expect. Thanks so much for watching, whether you're watching here live or later on the full video or in a segmented video. If you have anything comments to make about whether you disagree with what I said, feel free to leave those comments below. Hit that like button, smash that subscribe thing or whatever. You know the whole YouTube detail. Detail? What? What did he say? You know the whole YouTube spiel by now. If you've watched YouTube, I'm assuming you've watched YouTube if you're watching this. Anyway, go ahead, do all those things if you want. If you don't, I don't know, don't do them. I'm not gonna force you to do anything.